Hope everyone came home safe and sound if they were traveling, or safe and sound if you were staying home and messing around with the fireworks. John Congemi, Kim Bokamper here with you on this Wednesday after the 4th of July. And John, how was your 4th of July?
It was great. Had a great time. Got to travel a little bit to South Carolina. Went to Kiowa Island, so we were on the beach and watching fireworks. It was pretty cool.
You don't light any fireworks?
No, I was watching fireworks. I don't get anywhere near that.
Back in my younger days, I was big on lighting the fireworks, but now I don't want to. I want to sit in a long, safe, distant, watch.
I want to have 10 fingers.
Yeah,
I want to be able to go through
every year, man.
Playing golf and doing that stuff.
Yeah, every year you hear somebody blowing themselves up, man. And it's funny because I had to go to the grocery store yesterday and just pick up some stuff, pick up some burgers and stuff. We were barbecuing in the backyard, and I'm seeing these guys walking out with these boxes of fireworks. I'm going, man,
oh, there's trouble.
There's trouble right there. You know they're in trouble when they got 3 cases of beer, 2 bottles of two jugs of wine, another box of wine, and then 2 boxes of fireworks.
Hey, I probably saw those fireworks on the way back from MIA last night on 826. I'm going down the highway, and I'm like, that can't be a park there.
Yeah.
There's fireworks going off in the middle medley. They're just going off everywhere. It was
neighborhood fireworks.
Yeah.
But I hope everyone was safe out there. And you're watching the Audible. You're watching us today. You're watching us on Periscope. And you're watching us on Facebook Live. So you can go ahead and send your questions in either way, Facebook Live, Periscope. And John, I'm going to throw the question out there. We told you last week that the show is going to change a little bit when we come back. We're going to take a little vacation. We'll be back around the start of training camp. End of August, end of July, 1st of August, somewhere around there. We'll get that information to you. In the meantime, we'll be showing some best stuff and doing some different things to fill the time. But we're looking to change the show a little bit. So I'm going to ask you out there while you're watching, why don't you got any ideas, anything you'd like to see on the Audible, go ahead and send it in today, and we'll kind of jot it down, and we'll probably forget about most of that stuff. But
it's your best. Give it your best shot. Right? Just throw something in.
No, we're looking to change a little bit.
We got some questions. The questions have been great.
Questions have always been great.
Yeah.
We're just looking to get bigger and better, and kind of doing what people want. I know we're going to do a little high school football stuff.
That'd be nice.
On some of the days. Those are things are in the motion, and just kind of keeping the show. I can tell you this: the show is going to be bigger and better when we come back. So you're not going to want to miss it, and we'll have more as we go along and let you know exactly what's going on. But so today, you send your questions in. If you have any ideas or anything that you'd like to see in the show, go ahead and send it in, and we'll answer your questions and get to that, and probably use some of your stuff as we move forward. But John, it's it's hard to believe. Training camp's not that far away. The Dolphins will have 13 practices that will be open to the public during training camp, and based on what it's like out there now, if you're going to come and watch these practices, and I know the Dolphins last year put a top over the
hydrate,
bring a fan, bring you a cold towel, because even when you're in the shade around, man, I was in the shade yesterday in the backyard,
95 in the shade,
and it was hot, man.
I know.
I mean, it was hot. So be ready, but it's. I'm definitely getting. I can hear I can feel the hair on my neck starting to stand up a little bit because football season's coming around. Yeah,
it's getting closer, and that's the off-season OTAs are great.
Yeah,
you get a first look at what you've got. You get your draft choices out there. You get your free agents. You see what kind of team from last year where we've improved, where the depth has come from. But now in training camp, before you know it, we'll be at the preseason game number 1 right in Hard Rock Stadium against the Atlanta Falcons, and we'll be up and rolling in week 1 against Tampa Bay. Before you know it. So there's a really good contrast of where you've started in the offseason, where you're at during training camp and preseason, and all of a sudden, regular season is upon you. So for fans, get out and take advantage of those practices. I know it's going to be hot. I know it's going to be one of those things where you've got kids and you've got children. They've got food and beverages here. They've got a bunch of stuff here. They've got places where you can get autographs for the kids. It's going to be great, absolutely. So and get a good up close and personal look at the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff going on, and it's funny. We talk about OTAs, mini camp, and I know none of the OTAs or mini camps were open to the public out there. We got a chance to see some of the practices, and look, you missed not seeing guys out there, but you really don't miss much with those because they're kind of going through it. But the real thing is coming up. When you put the pads on, you get going. The intensity certainly ratchets up, and you're getting ready for the season. So I mean, this is a time where, after John, even with the opportunity that we had to watch during OTAs and minicamp, You think we got a pretty good team. You think we got a good group of guys. You think this group of receivers are going to do well. You think this group of running backs. You think we like what they did on the defensive side of the football. But until they put the pads on and start going, you don't know. You really don't know what this team is gonna be like and what we're going to see out of the Miami Dolphins during this year. And you'll be able to start. And John, to me, what I'm looking forward to. Week 1, preseason game. Week 2, preseason game. Week 3, they go to Philadelphia.
That's right.
Practice against the Philadelphia Eagles for 3 or 4 days. And, John, to me, those are always very, very helpful for a football team. When you practice, you get to go against some other guys. You're not beating your head against the same guys you have throughout the course of training camp. Now you get to go against some other guys. The intensity ratchets up a little bit. And I think you really get a good feel for your football team there. However, a couple years ago, I went up there and they beat the crap out of the Panthers. Panthers went to the Super Bowl, and we were kind of
we were laughing.
We were sucking high tent at the end of the season.
We were laughing going up, but coming away from, at a college there. I don't know, can't remember. Was it Citadel or where were we? I can't even remember. We were in South Carolina.
I know where it was. It was at the university where Jerry Richardson.
Yes, because that statue.
That's where he graduated.
There's this big statue.
I don't know what the name was.
Out in front.
I just thought Jerry Richardson U up there. Or whatever,
I can't remember where we were. We were. Anywhere. It was a small college in South Carolina. All I know is this.
We were driving out in the bus and gas was $1.98.
Yes, we could walk to about 4 or 5 bars. It was pretty good. But you're right. We came out of there going, you know what? We're not a pretty good football team.
Yeah.
Because if Carolina is going to be some kind of standard that you're going to set yourself to, toughness, athleticism, speed, schematically, it just looked a lot different.
Yeah, everything matched up well.
The season came upon us and Carolina ascended and we didn't.
Yep.
And now you've got a chance to gauge yourself against a pretty good NFC team, I think, this year.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if we're going to be as intense as we were in Carolina. I think there'll be some scaled back things, some 7-on-7, some 1-on-1 drills, but you'll still get a good gauge of where your team should be. And I think that the most important thing is change of scenery. I mean, how many times do you go to a training camp, Bo, in your career where you're going back to St. Thomas, you're going back to the dorms, you're going back to the same swimming pool that has a cage around it. You want to be able to get out and do something different. And I think the change of scenery in the middle of training camp sometimes is a good thing.
And sometimes we used to go up to Swanee and practice up there against the
Atlanta Falcons.
Falcons. Early in my career, we'd go up for one day and do a one-day scrimmage in Vero against the Saints. It was nice just to be on a different practice field. See different things. The locker room was a little different, just like you said, just a change of scenery. Yeah. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this year. Certainly, this is a football team, John, that needs to get off to a fast start, and we'll talk about a lot of that when training camp rolls around. We'll go ahead and get some questions here, and again, appreciate you guys jumping into the questions. Facebook, Periscope, you guys know what to do. Just send them in. We'll get to them. Got a Facebook question right off the bat. Carlos Beltran. I don't think it's Carlos Beltran that we're...
No.
Well, who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe Carlos is a big Dolphin fan.
I'm saying no.
What were the keys to this year? What were the keys this year to making it further into the playoffs? Okay.
What's Leon doing back there?
I don't know. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it verbatim. What were the keys this year to making it further to the playoffs this year? I don't know if that's Carlos or I don't know if that's Leon back there with that grammatically incorrect question. Or
does he
sentence.
Translate when these questions come in?
What B? What B am I taking out? What B am I taking out? What will be the keys this year to making it further into the playoffs this year? You got this year twice, back-to-backs. Come on, man.
Come on, you're better than that, Leon.
Well, certainly one thing I think it's important for this football team, as it is you got to be healthy, man. The teams that get there in the end, when you look back at them, the majority of their key players are healthy.
Right.
And you've got to be healthy. So I think that's it. And look, this team's got to come out. This team's got to come out and they've got to establish early on that they're a winning football team. You can't limp into the season the way they did last year, go 1-4, and now you're scrambling just to try to get to 500. I think you got to come out, and this team's got to make a statement early on that, hey, we're a team to be reckoned with, and you know what? As long as we play our game the best we can, doesn't matter who we play.
You're right. I think talent-wise, it can't be next man up mentality every year. You get away with that every odd year. The Miami Dolphins, I believe, got away with it last year.
Yes.
But you have to have better talent. You have to have more competition in camp so you can weed out the guys that aren't going to play. And basically, in the NFL in 2017, just like it was last year and probably a couple years prior to that, if your quarterback makes a difference in a positive way, you will win a couple more games than you should. And that's basically what it boils down to. It's going to boil down to having a better run defense, being able to score points, and Ryan Tannehill being that much better in his second year in this offense. Because if you can steal a few games from that position, you go from 7 or 8 to 9 or 10 or 11, and that makes a huge difference.
John, what Ryan had 20? Was he 24? What was his numbers last year? Touchdowns, 24 and
off the top of my head, it was 24 and 10,
maybe
close,
something like that.
Something
24
like that.
and 10. Yeah. Joe Rose was on last week on the program. We were talking about what does Ryan need to do numbers wise, and I think we all believe that Ryan can do better number wise. I think for the Dolphins to be where they want to be, I think he's got to throw somewhere between 30 and 35 touchdowns, John. And I think if he can keep the interceptions at below double digits or at 10. Well, with a 30 to 35 touchdown ratio, I think that puts the Dolphins right where they want to be.
I think if he goes crazy with touchdowns like that, I think this team's either scoring a lot of points and winning or losing in shootouts. Because I still think Jay Ajayi is going to be a big part of this offense, and the running attack to keep the opposing offense on the sidelines has to kind of measure in there. But you're right. If you cash in, you get a dominant Devontae Parker in the red zone. You get a dominant Julius Thomas in the red zone. Those guys make a couple more plays on the perimeter.
I also think, John, there's a commitment this year to throwing the football to those running backs a little more and giving them opportunities.
You would think so. Yeah. You would think so. By the way, the OTAs went. Those guys caught the ball better. They were a little bit more in sync with the passing game. Turn when you're open or when you're supposed to be open. Those guys did a pretty good job. But I would say if those numbers reach 32 to 35 in the touchdowns for Ryan Tannehill, that means they're throwing a lot of red zone 50-50 balls, back shoulder throws, and some explosive plays down the field again to Kenny Stills. And Jarvis is doing his thing, breaking tackles and finding the end zone.
And if you're throwing 30-plus touchdowns, 30 to 30-plus touchdowns, your defense is getting a little extra time on the sidelines.
That's right.
You're not stressing them as much as they were stressed, certainly early in the season when this team struggled just to get first downs for the first month of the season. I mean, struggled in a big way. I remember doing post-game shows.
We 1 for 10 or 2 for 12 on third down.
I think there was one game they didn't get a first down or maybe one first down in the first half. So they got to get better at that. Okay, Lamel Ortiz. Hey, Bo, who gave you the most trouble to tackle? Well, I always say Earl Campbell was the best player I've ever played against. But I tell you who gave me a tough. You remember Lydell Mitchell?
Absolutely,
running back for the Baltimore Colts.
26.
He was he was with Lydell Mitchell was with Franco Harris at Penn State. Played for and he was. He was the first guy I remember coming. They ran a little trap or a little power play. I bounced out, had him right in my sights, had him already. Went to wrap him up. Thought he went to wrap him up, and all of a sudden I'm going
air.
I'm air, and I'm on the ground, and I look back, and there he's scooting down the field. Like, what the hell happened, man? And I didn't see it till we watched the films. I'm wrapping up. The guy jumps straight up.
Right.
I went through. He lands behind me and Gonzo. Yeah. So
he was good.
He was. He was to me. Lydell Mitchell to me was one of the really underrated running backs in the National Football League at that time.
What he almost reminds me of is Bell. The way he paced himself behind the line of scrimmage and waited for his tackles.
Patient guy.
Yeah. He
could catch the ball. Could block. I mean, he did everything well. So yeah, I liked him. He was very good. There were a lot of guys that. A lot of guys that ran by me. If you just watched it, I always tell people, I say, you want to see him in a highlight film, watch any running back in the 70s and 80s.
I don't know about that. You got most of them, Bo.
Mark Bozan, what's the chance the Dolphins pick up a better guard?
I think we did.
Well, I think so.
Yeah,
no doubt.
We'll find out.
You got Ted Larson. You got Asiata coming in to battle for that. They're going to go after it, but. I think the Dolphins, look, there's some guys still left out there. Franklin's out there. We talk about Mangold out there. But I think this team is I think they're happy where they're at right now.
100% better than where we were at this time last year.
Believe me.
The Yardbirds are gone.
Way better. I think this team doesn't do anything unless somebody gets hurt early in training camp and one of those guys are out there and they bring him in.
Yeah, that's the only way you make a change now, because you're still trying to determine if Mike Pouncey's going to be able to play opening day. You're hoping that he's going to be ready. You're hoping that they're going to be patient in the preseason and training camp with Mike Pouncey, but it's only the doctor's call and Mike Pouncey's call ultimately to say, I'm ready to go, week 1 against Tampa Bay. And if that lasts throughout the extended part of the season, that's great. But if it doesn't, I think now you've got 3 or 4 guys that can bounce in between the guard and center position. You feel confident about.
Steen and Urbic have both played there.
Absolutely.
They're back, and these guys know
Brandel,
the system.
Yeah, they got a bunch of guys.
They've got a lot of guys there. I think this team is I think they're going to stand pat going into training camp. I don't think between now and training. Look, everyone's gone right now. Everyone's on vacation, coaches, everyone's so nothing's going to happen between now and training camp anyway. Facebook, Mallory Floor Carl, what practice or training camp drills did you hate doing, John? What did you like to avoid?
You know what I wanted to avoid? I tried to avoid the 360s where you started in the back end zone on a cone and you had to run around the field in a certain time, but you had to do 5 of them.
Yeah.
So I always tried to float with the linemen. Like I would run 1 or 2 with the wide receivers, DBs, quarterbacks, running backs, and Danny Barrett was with me.
Right.
So we tried to move up a little bit with the linemen on about the 3rd one. Yeah. And our coach, his name was Bob Obilovich, he couldn't find us.
Right.
He's like, where the hell is Congemi and Barrett? Down with the linemen. So we'd blow the whistle, we'd run. That was probably the one I hated the most.
I tell you what I hate. I hate it, and we did it every day in the morning. We did live goal line every day.
Yeah,
every day, and it was always the last drill of the day, and then we had to run gassers after it. So you're sitting there, and so if you didn't have a headache by the time you got to goal line drill. Certainly when you got done, you had a headache. And then they go, all right, let's get ready for gas. And you're out.
Those were the worst. You know what other one would be frustrating? You could probably appreciate this. If we're going through a quasi walkthrough, all right, we're still on the field and it was, practice has started and then you're just going to go, install certain couple passing plays. Or running plays, mostly passing. So you'd go back and you're walking through and you're going to, check a ball down to a running back, and all of a sudden the guy bats it down. And you're like, well, who is that guy? Who is that guy anyway? Because it wasn't the starters, right? So all of a sudden you run another play and you throw one down. He tries to do it again. He might miss it, but he tries to do it again. So the lineman would come back and go, hey, we want to beat this guy's ass, right? Throw one right. I'm going to duck. Throw one right at his head when he goes up. So we'd go up, and I'd look around, and I'd try to drill him, and I'd go right, and all of a sudden there was a big scrum. So then you even things out a little bit.
I would guess usually that guy is usually cut after 2 or 3 days.
Usually, and it started in the beginning because you're trying to install plays. You go through the chalkboard, you come out, and you try to walk through, and then you're going to come out later and go to practice.
Anyone that knows me, has heard me over the years, knows I have a little disdain for kickers.
Yes.
And my disdain for kickers comes from that drill right there, from the goal line drills we used to do, because you'd be out there busting your head, and I remember, you'd be sweating, it'd be hot, steamy, got a headache, someone just jacked your neck on a short yardage play, and you look over it, and the kickers are laying on the dummies, flipping balls up and down.
Well, they're waiting. They're waiting. They're waiting.
They're waiting. They're being patient with the, and that never sent too well. Periscope, M. Fawad, do you think the Finns will go 5-1 within the division?
Ooh, man, that'd be a big number. That'd be good.
Buffalo's a team that's, they're rebuilding their team, new coach. You got to figure that there's a chance they can sweep that. Jets are a team. I don't know what's going on with the Jets. I mean that team is in.
I'm just glad we're not the Jets right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because from the outside in. Yes, we've been there.
We've been this Jets team a while back. We're not anymore. So I think that, I think unless you really slip up, you certainly have a chance to sweep those 2 teams. Not that they're not going to lay over and die for you.
Buffalo's going to be still tough.
If you could steal that one game from New England, that could be ultimately.
That's a difference.
That could be the difference in the Dolphins season in whether they go in as a division winner or a wild card team. If you can just pull one out of New England, whether it's here or up there, that's going to be a huge situation for the Dolphins.
Just think through the history of the Miami Dolphins when they've skated to the playoffs. I mean, breezed through the playoffs. Not only were they a really good football team, but they dominated the AFC.
Yeah.
So now the New England Patriots dominate the AFC East. They dominate for years, for the past 15 years. Just go back and look it up. But can the Dolphins get closer to 5 wins or 4-2? They went 4-2 last year. They can get to 5-1. They're going to get to 10.
Yes.
They'll find a way to get to 10. But if you're 4-2 or you're 3-3, now you're searching for victory somewhere on that schedule.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And but look, they're trying to close that gap, and by beating New England one of those times, it would certainly go a long way towards
especially if you
that.
have to see him again somewhere down the road.
No doubt. And look, the other thing is this: it hasn't happened around here in such a long time, but in New England, faces all the time. If you can win the division, if you can get a bye. You win one game at home. Next thing you know, you're in the AFC Championship game.
You're knocking on the door.
You're one game away from a Super Bowl, and anything can happen at that point. I mean, the first year we went to the Super Bowl in '82, I think we're all sitting there going, I think we beat I forget who we beat in the first game, Seattle or somebody, and then went and played the Jets in the AFC Championship game, and we're sitting there going, man, we beat these guys. We're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And you're going, whoa. I mean, so you think about it, home field advantage, bye week is huge. And if you can get that, man, then you're scratching, then you're knocking on the door.
Especially at that time of the year. Wins are so precious. You're probably playing like you're in the playoffs for the prior 3 weeks.
Exactly.
So you need a break to step off the accelerator, and that may be the cushion that the Miami Dolphins or any team in that position needs to get to the next level.
No doubt. Anthony Shake Felicio, a Facebook question. Jim Mandich, my all-time favorite Dolphin. Do you have any good memories? I have a million good memories of Jim Mandich. Just being around Jim. I mean, probably one of the great teammates I've ever had, and certainly one of the great friends I've ever had. And my all-time favorite line from Mad Dog, who everyone that listened to him on the radio knows he had 1,000 lines. But my favorite line that I ever heard from Jim Mandich, every time we would go up to Buffalo and check into the hotel, he would go, the guy, name Mandich, and he would slide the guy at the counter a $50 bill and goes, do me a favor, give me a room without a view. So that was always one of my. I always started to line up behind Mad Dog.
Oh yeah,
going at the hotel reservation, to get your key, because I knew he was going to throw that out at the guy. It was always
the
pretty
best.
Good. Yeah, great guy, and it's funny. I was with Nick, his son. Had lunch with Nick. They're doing well. They're doing some commercial real estate and stuff. So it's good to see them doing well. They learned a lot from their dad, and they're putting into effect now. So it's good stuff for them. Another Periscope question. SM Shepard 777. What do you think about the depth at the running back position?
I like it.
I'm very, very, very satisfied with where we are at the running back spot.
I love it. I think that Jay Ajayi looks a little bit different when we saw him in OTAs. He looks a little trimmer, I think, but still the strength is there. And I think you still have question marks with Kenyon Drake. How much of a load can he take off of Jay, and how many more plays can you get him in to accentuate what he does really well? And then you have Damian Williams. He's kind of like the jack of all trades. He can run it. He can catch it. He's very good in pass protection and on third down, catching it out of the backfield. And you've got, Storm Johnson. You've got some other guys in there that may have a chance to land on this roster, depending on where we are with linebackers and DBs on special teams. So there's plenty of depth at the position. I like the overall aspect of you've got guys that can play on all 3 downs, and it doesn't matter which guy it is. So I like that about that.
I think Kenyon, you like to see Kenyon get his blocking a little bit, improve his blocking a little bit if he wants to play.
But he looks stronger. We talked about, Parker on the outside looking a little bit stronger. Kenyon Drake in his second year looks like that.
Let me tell you what,
now.
I've told this before on the show. I did an event just after the draft with Kenyon. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking over and I keep looking over. I'm so.
That wasn't the same guy, man, right? Yeah.
I mean, he's. The coaches have talked about Kenyon Drake and his conditioning, and they've talked about Jay Ajayi and his conditioning, how much better he's prepared to go in. I think he knows he's a starter, coming off of a Pro Bowl year, coming off a 1,000-yard year. He wants to continue. He wants to prove to people that's not a fluke.
Right.
And you can tell he wants to do it by the way he's coming in condition-wise. So, I think this is the best depth at running back that we've had he's in years and years.
And I think it's dependable. It's almost like, if Jay was nicked for a couple of weeks, it wouldn't be like, oh no, what are we going to do? There's plenty of talent. There's plenty of talent here, and you like him coming back with the confidence he built last year. I think that's a big thing because he didn't have it to start the season last year, obviously, but he gained it, and he gained it in a hurry.
And one of the things he wants, he wants more carries.
Yeah.
So he's coming out. He got himself ready to come out and show that he deserves more carries. But you've got two other guys back there that are gonna have create a reason to give them carries too. So
I always feel like in the running game, Bo, everything works its way out. You figure out what you need in 2017. Just because you ran 3 times for over 200 yards, that doesn't mean it's going to be the same type of dynamic in 2017. So I think that the running game always works its way out.
Yep. Facebook, David Holmes. Which area of the team did we not improve as much as we should have? I guess if I was going to go to one, it would be the guard position. But I think we've got improvement at the guard position. I think we've certainly improved dramatically. Maybe defensive tackle, although they drafted a couple defensive tackles.
I think that's probably the biggest question mark for me. They have one of the most dominant players in the National Football League, but then you've got a guy that's 50-50. You've got a guy in Jordan Phillips where you hope you're going to get the best 45 or 50 plays out of him in every game this year. But if you don't, you've got question marks. You've got raw guys coming in to play major roles. It could be, especially if Adamakin, misses some time. So I think that's probably for me the biggest question mark. Who of those young players can step up and be counted on? Yeah,
and who knows? Maybe the improvement's going to be dramatic with these guys. Who knows? Right. But I think those are the two areas you probably kind of look at with a corner of your eye and say, let's see how much better we can get.
The jury's out on depth.
Yeah. Periscope, Jedi Knight 1003. Rumors are we got a steal of the draft with wide receiver Isaiah Ford out of Virginia Tech we drafted. Is this true? I saw an article that talked about him in pretty glowing terms. But look, again, you got to come out. He's a tall guy. He's a fast guy. I guess his numbers at the combine were
a little slower than he projects on the field. The one thing I do like about Ford, in the passing game, he's got a good feel. When he comes out of a route, the quarterback's ready to deliver. He's not late. He's open. And he's open in the right windows. So I like that about a young guy. And he didn't have a lot of bust. There wasn't a lot of lineup issues during OTAs. He was out. He was running his routes. And he got better as the days went on. So he's not going to challenge the starting lineup, I think, right away. But he's going to provide some depth. And he'll be around in the mix.
There's a few good little receivers out there that are going to
Malcolm Lewis
that are going to be looking for that, going to try to pick up that last spot or two in the wide receiver spot. And there's going to be a pretty good competition there. El Chapo Jr., hey guys, what are your plans?
Chapo's back.
El Chapo's back, man. He hasn't left. He's been with us since day one,
That's
Chapo. Hey guys, what are your plans for the All-Star game? I got no plan.
I'll be home on my couch.
I'll be home on my couch.
That's my plan for the
All-Star game. I like watching
the
All-Star game on TV. I like watching the lineup. And the other thing is, I'm not going to be down at that ballpark until a new owner takes over. Then I'll spend some money down at that ballpark.
There you go.
Until then, no. Periscope at Roach Coach 15. Is it August 1st yet? It feels like it's August 1st outside.
Close.
It's hot, man.
It's hot.
It's hot.
It was 95 in the car today, and I was trying to get the fan to go on, Bo, and the thing was so hot it wouldn't crank up. Man, I had to start the car over again.
I let my car was in the garage all night, and I got in the car in the garage and it was hot as hell.
It's hot.
Like, man, what the heck? Brian Hildebrandt, Facebook. How much does having one roster cut down date change the preseason process? I think it gives guys more opportunity. I think the guys that may got cut that last cut before. I remember it used to be 3 or 4 cuts.
Right.
You'd have an early cut, but that was back then. I mean, we used to bring 120, 130 guys to camp. And now they've got, what is it, 90 is the number?
90 is the number.
They bring 90 to the number, and really you need those 90 guys to practice with.
You need them for that 4th preseason game. I think this is a good rule for the National Football League because you're trying to protect, your starters. You don't want to expose a guy that might be the backup tackle for 25 plays in the 4th preseason game. Why not let guys that are fighting for roster spots, still fighting on special teams, and possibly, Carolina has circled on their guys, this guy could be really good on our roster, picking him up on the practice roster, picking him up to step in and play. So I think it's a great opportunity for the younger players and those fringe players for 30 other teams and not the Miami Dolphins, and the Miami Dolphins will be looking as well. But those guys to play in the 4th preseason game.
No matter how many cut down dates they were back when I played, or 2 years ago, or last year, there are always guys that no matter what cut down it is, are going, man, I wish we didn't have to let this guy go right now, but he doesn't fit in the numbers game, so we got to get rid of him.
Let's give him a chance.
And so this gives those guys
a chance.
One more week to, who knows, maybe make a play out on the practice field that opens the coach's eyes, or like you said in the 4th preseason game, come up with a play that says, hey, maybe we,
let's keep him around.
Maybe we keep him around on the practice field.
Find a way to keep him around.
So I think it's great for the players. I think it's good for the coaches. I think it's good for training camp where you don't find yourself shorthanded.
And you don't even have to dress the guy you're questioning about going, he may have to play if somebody goes down. You can not dress him. You can just have him sit on the sidelines and wait for Tampa Bay and let the guys that are really fighting for roster spots have at it in that 4th preseason game.
No doubt about it. Periscope, Let's Talk NFL Ball. Raekwon McMillan, could he start? Yeah, he could start. I think, Congemi is still not cleared, still not physically cleared to practice. Thought he would be able to practice a little bit during OTAs and during minicamp. He didn't. And he's still got to pass his physical to get here.
He needs clearance.
Training camp. He needs clearance. And the longer that Congemi can't practice, the more it's going to give Raekwon McMillan an opportunity to try to get in there and steal that spot. And I think even if Ko is able to practice, it's going to be a pretty good battle, I think, between those two to find out. Because it's going to be Lawrence Timmons and it's going to be Kiko. It's that other spot that's available out there. And Raekwon's going to have every opportunity to try and earn that spot.
He tackles well. He's good in space. He can cover. He can rush the passer. He led his team in back-to-back tackles the last 2 years at Ohio State. This guy caught on very quickly, and I would look for him, not only to be impactful, but challenge and find a way on the field. He's that good.
Yeah, I think, to me, the 2 guys off of this draft class that really, or the 3 guys off this draft class that have an opportunity to start are certainly Charles Harris, I think Raekwon McMillan and Cordero Tankersley is the other guy you look at and say, look, if anyone's going to jump and grab a starting spot, it's probably going to be one of those 3 guys.
I would say the first 2 you said in McMillan and Harris, they're going to get 25 to 30 snaps a game.
Yes, whether they're starting or not, they're going to get their reps.
Easily.
No question about that. Final question, Facebook, Darren Sale. Is this season Cameron Wake's last? I don't think so.
Doesn't look like
I don't think so. Not the way he played last year. Not the condition he keeps himself in. The way he takes care of himself. That being said, barring some unforeseen,
an injury that he had to overcome last time.
Yeah, but I think Cam goes through the season without a major injury. I don't see any reason why he doesn't come back. I really don't.
And I think they're going to step on the accelerator when it comes to plays. And not really hold back. Last year
he wants to play every play.
I know. Last year they had good reason, and I think they did that pretty good. And they kind of spoon-fed in the beginning.
But also realize, hey, we need to get this guy.
We need to get this guy having a more impactful presence on the defense. And I think you're going to start out with him going ears back and going at the quarterback.
Hey, let me remind you, we're going to take a little hiatus here. We're going to be off until training camp starts, probably, I'm going to say in August 1st, maybe somewhere around that area. But Leon, you're going to be still showing best ofs, or you're going to show old shows, or what are you doing in there? So the show, the Audible will still be on. It just won't be live. When we come back, we'll be live. It's going to be bigger. We're retooling things. We're going to be on the road a little bit. We're going to be out there doing a little high school football.
We're not going to show behind the scenes like with Leon and Jeff and Tom and Logan. Please. Those guys are still Logan maybe.
Yeah, Logan maybe. Trey every now and then gets a shot.
Did you notice Trey's hairline's going back further and further? I was noticing that today.
He and Leon are both losing a little bit. They got the LeBron James disease now.
I see him with a hat on all the time now. Yeah. So you just never wear a hat.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
maybe it's getting
bigger
summertime.
And better, including Trey.
It's like the tide.
Leon,
comes in and goes back out.
Logan, Jeff, all the guys in the back. While we're on vacation, they're going to be back there working, trying to get things bigger and better.
Nice.
So anyway, there's going to be a lot coming up for you this season we're not going to want to miss. And so we're not going to be with you live until Training camp starts thereabouts. Keep an eye out for us, and we'll let you know. They'll let you know over the on MiamiDolphins.com and a Facebook page when we come back, so we can keep you up to date on it. But until then, John,
hey, that was fun.
Been a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, have fun.
Do a little traveling.
Stay
do a
cool.
Something.
Absolutely.
Try to stay cool. And get out of town a little bit, and then
Same
come
here.
back and be ready to go for a big, successful season. I hope you guys are ready for a big, big season when we come back. And I'm not just talking about in the Audible. I'm talking about the boys.
On the
Boys
field.
out on the field. Take care. We'll see you when we come back.